Obi-Wan Kenobi said, "Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them." It seems to be getting harder, distinguishing reality from the illusions people make for us, or from the ones we make for ourselves. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the plan.
Media. I love media. As a nerdy guy who probably spends far too much of his free time watching TV shows or playing video games, media has become a big part of my life. But it's also a big part of many people's lives as well. We are exposed to it every day, be it through TV shows, movies, video games, books, or music. We are always consuming media, and with that, we are always being given messages about the world that we live in. Those who craft the stories that we're invested in have to use their own worldviews in order to create their characters and their fictional worlds. Sure, we don't live in a dystopian future like Katniss, or have a series of interconnected planets that are being ruled by an evil emperor like Luke Skywalker, but these characters and the worlds that they reside in have similarities to our own. That's why they're so enjoyable. Media allows us to explore themes and narratives in a safe space, and let us learn about the world that we live in. The problem is that media doesn't always have the greatest portrayals and messaging, which can lead to people developing poor viewpoints about themselves or different people. When we fall into the trap of having media develop characters and stories that are stereotypical, we then get viewers who develop those same stereotypical viewpoints. If we don't have any experiences other than the messaging that we've got from media, it can start to dictate then how we view the world around us. Media is meant to represent the world that we live in, so when media influences how we see the fictional worlds, it impacts how we view our real world too, just like Huey said. Media influences our views from everything, to race.
Token, how many times do we have to go through this? You're black, you can play bass.
I'm getting sick of your stereotypes.
Be as sick as you want, just give me a goddamn bass line!
God damn it.
To sex.
You can't get a hot girl like this like that.
Thank you, baby.
Oh, well, I will get all your leftovers. I call it trickle-down banging.
Trickle-down banging.
That's trademark, by the way.
Well done.
So, thank you.
To sexuality.
I just want to be with you. I don't care, New York, dairy, whatever. It's...
You have to say that.
I don't have to say anything.
Take off that fucking hat. Pause. We want to give people the impression we allow a bunch of fucking fairies like you in this town.
All right, let's go.
No, you know what? I'll take off the hat for you. But why leave it there? Anything else you'd like me to take off for you tonight? Any special requests, ladies? Let him go!
To relationships.
I'm hurt. I'm actually hurt that you would think I would send you any of those things out of anything other than love. Hurt. Hurt.
All right, Ross, I get it.
I mean, my God, can't a guy send a barbershop quartet to his girlfriend's office anymore?
Please, Ross, it was so obvious. It was like you were marking your territory. I mean, you might as well have just come in and peed all around my desk.
To really any and everything. This is where media literacy comes into play. We have to understand the messaging that we are receiving from media in order to not let it negatively impact how we view ourselves and others. To do this, we need to understand a few things about media. First, all media messages are constructed. Media is constructed just as surely buildings and highways are constructed. The key behind this concept, though, is to figure out who is constructing the message, out of what materials are they using, and to what effect are they doing it. When we have writers, producers, and directors who all have similar viewpoints, they will only be able to create characters and worlds that fit that worldview. This is the reason that we need to have such diverse writers' rooms. The next one I want to cover is the construction tools that are needed for media. Just like you need hammer and nails to build a house, you need certain tools to craft media messages. And what's important is to recognize that media uses its own creative language. Scary music heightens fear. Camera close-ups convey intimacy. Big headlines signal significance. Understanding the grammar, syntax, and metaphor of media language helps us to be less susceptible to manipulation. Anyone who has ever watched a bunch of different horror films or a bunch of different Marvel movies can tell you that there's a formula that's being followed. You can usually tell when a jump scare is about to happen by the intensity of the scene. or when a villain is about to start their bad guy speech.
Talk. And if you're wasting our
Did
time...
you know this church is in the exact center of the city? The elders decreed it so that everyone could be equally close to God. I like that. The geometry of belief. You're wondering why you can't look inside my head.
Sometimes it's hard. But sooner or later, every man shows himself.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Media has its own language, and when we start to recognize that language, you can understand what it is trying to portray to you. Third is that different people experience the same media messages differently. Everyone interprets art different. That's the beauty of it. Audiences play a role in interpreting media messages because each audience member brings to that message a unique set of life experiences. Differences in age, gender identity, education, and cultural upbringing will generate unique interpretations. Just like I might see PETA as a character who's essentially a stale piece of bread who weighs Katniss down for 3 books or 4 movies, someone else might see him as a great character. And that's the beauty of it, is that we can both be correct. Now, this might be counter to the whole purpose of trying to understand the negative messaging in media, when we could see negative messaging as positive and not realize that it's actually negatively impacting us or how we view the world around us. The important thing to remember, though, is that when we are viewing media through our own unique worldview, that we can only see it through that worldview. For example, if I view women as objects, I won't see why this scene is both important and humorous. And just like we have our own views and values, like I mentioned before, so do the creators of the media. Because they are constructed, media messages carry a subtext of who and what is important, at least to the person creating the media, or creating the message. The choice of a character's age, gender, race, sexual orientation, the selection of the setting, and the actions in the plot are just some of the ways that values become embedded in TV shows, movies, books, and video games. For example, you wouldn't be able to have someone who is homophobic write or direct a show like Orange is the New Black effectively. The LGBTQ plus characters of that show are integral to its storytelling, and if the writers were homophobic, those characters would have simply not been as compelling or even existed in the first place. And finally, most media messages are organized in a way to gain profit or power. When directors and writers create their stories, they determine who the most important characters are. When we have a lot of directors and writers using the same worldview, then to create their important characters, we might then start to view the world around us and view people around us as the ones who are important that match up to those characters, and everyone else just becomes a background character. It is why we need to have movies like Coco and Black Panther. It is why we need to make sure leads in films and shows are diverse. When we have diverse cast members, writers, and directors, it makes it easier to view everyone as important to the story, not just a certain group of people. So, these are the 5 things that we need to keep in mind then when we are consuming media. If we only have negative or stereotypical depictions dictating how we see the world, then that's how we will start treating others who fit the appearances that we've seen on screen. We stop seeing the world as being full of all different kinds of people and instead start to place them into very specific boxes to allow us to think more easily and simply about the world that we live in. When we start to hold people to these very rigid views that we have been given by media, we stop seeing actual people and only caricatures of the group that we think they represent. We need to have depictions of all people, of all different backgrounds in media, so we can have meaningful discussions on the problems in our society that these different groups of people face in real life. Whether it be on things like racism.
And now I see why Richie acts like a hood, Maggie. That kid's a bad influence. All his kind are.
Keep your voice down.
It's bad enough I gotta deal with them all day long. Now one of them's in my house.
It's still early. I can go home without calling my pops for a ride.
Virgil, don't leave, please. We can talk to my mom.
What good is that gonna do, Rich? She can't change what he said. You were right all along. Hanging here was a bad idea. Sorry.
What's going on down there?
Well, you got what you wanted, Dad. My best friend's gone because of you and your stupid racism. I hate you! Hey!
Gender identity.
My mother was Noltorian, but my father was a human.
So you are both human and alien?
Yes. My parents believed that humans and aliens could coexist. And I am living proof of that. But growing up wasn't easy. I am also a trans woman. I'm different, Ms. Danvers, but so is everybody. And I don't know when that became such a bad thing. The greatest gift we can give each other is our authentic selves, and sharing that, sharing our truth, is what will make us strong. So here I am. I am both human and alien. And I am a trans woman.
Healthy relationships.
Ames, today has been a crazy day, but I shouldn't be surprised because we've had a lot of crazy days. There was our first date, our first kiss, the first time you told me you loved me, and the day you told me you would marry me. Also, yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, because every single day that I get to be with someone as amazing as you is crazy to me. I love you, and I'm worried about dancing in front of our friends. The end.
Okay, well, I've been planning this wedding for the last 6 months, and if you told me yesterday everything that was gonna go wrong, I would have had a panic attack that sent me into the ER. But I'm here, and I've never been happier. Life is unpredictable. Not everything's in our control, but as long as you're with the right people, you can handle anything. And you, Jake Peralta, are the right person for me. But I do have some bad news. There is a bomb at this wedding as well.
What?
Your butt. Your butt is the bomb. There will be no survivors.
I love you so much. You're my dream girl.
I love you too.
Or any other topic. Media allows us to have a space to where we can look at these things, discuss them with our friends, and start to better understand how these groups of people may be treated in the real world. This channel will aim to show how these different portrayals and tropes in media help mold us to view the world in very specific ways, in an effort to help media consumers be more mindful about the messages that we are receiving, and to help us push against these worldviews and seeing the world in black and white, as the media tends to portray it. So, thank you all for watching. Please comment and subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.